It's my pleasure to introduce Kat Ramirez. And as you already heard, she's an associate professor in Latin American Latino Studies. As the director of the Chicano Latino Research Center, she's really kind of revitalized it and played a key role in a research center that's going to be a key part of a new PhD that's going to be launched in the fall in Latin American and Latino Studies. The one fact that I think is really interesting to note is that she's an intense science fiction fan. And so I think her work, combined with the science fiction aspects, raises all kinds of fantastic possibilities for future projects. With further ado, I'd like to introduce Kat Ramirez.
Thank you for the warm welcome, and thanks to the organizers of Event Santa Cruz for giving me this opportunity to talk to you all about my work and myself. Thanks to the Division of Social Sciences as well. And thanks to you all for coming out on a Wednesday night. Event Santa Cruz is a celebration of our home, and the notion of home figures prominently in my work. Before I talk about what I do at UC Santa Cruz, allow me to tell you a bit about who I am and where I'm from. I will begin by confessing that I'm not from Santa Cruz, and I didn't expect to stay here very long when I arrived in 2001. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and I have a PhD from UC Berkeley in ethnic studies. I received that in 2000. My first job out of graduate school was at the University of New Mexico. And in 2001, my husband, a fellow University of New Mexico professor and California native, had the good fortune to receive a job offer at UC Santa Cruz. While we were very happy in the Southwest, we welcomed the opportunity to come home to California. However, there was a problem. I was the faculty wife, and at the time, UC Santa Cruz, like a lot of other universities, lacked a partner hiring policy. So there was very little chance that I would get a stable, permanent job, what we call in our profession a ladder rank or tenure track position at UC Santa Cruz. So as a dual academic career couple, my husband and I faced a fairly limited set of options. I could live in Albuquerque, he could live here, we could try and maintain a long-distance relationship. One of us could give up his or her academic job and start all over again in another career, something I was loath to do as a newly minted PhD, or we could go on the job market and try to get offers at another institution. And the reasoning behind that strategy was that UCSC would then try to retain my husband by offering me a tenure track job. It was a long shot, but I ended up with a job offer at UCLA. Shortly thereafter, UCLA offered my husband a position with tenure, and UCSC came through with a job offer for me, and everything seemed to be falling into place for us. And then I got pregnant, which is something I don't think any of the other speakers here this evening can say happened to them. So I got pregnant, and as I noted, I'm from LA. I have lots of friends and family there. My parents are still there. In fact, they live in the house that my father bought with his GI Bill money after World War II. It's a house that he and my mother raised my sisters and me in, and they really wanted me and their first grandchild to be back home in Southern California, close to them. Meanwhile, most of my advisors at Berkeley were pushing me to accept the job at UCLA, which they saw as a superior, more prestigious institution. I chose Santa Cruz. I chose to make Santa Cruz my home for a number of reasons, and I'll share 3 with you right now. First, I was and continue to be impressed by UCSC's innovation and risk-taking. In many ways, my department, Latin American and Latino Studies, emblematizes that originality and daring. It was founded in 1971 as the program in Latin American Studies. In 1994, it changed its name to Latin American and Latino Studies. In general, scholars in Latin American studies study Latin America, as the name of their field makes evident, while scholars in Latino studies historically have focused on the area north of the US-Mexico border. The new name, Latin American and Latino Studies, articulated and reflected the program's unique hemispheric focus and multidisciplinarity. This fall, as Sheldon noted, my department will welcome its first cohort of doctoral students. This is the newest graduate program at UC Santa Cruz. Thank you. Thank you. We're very excited. So I walked away from a job in a top-ranked department at UCLA, and I now find myself in an extraordinary institutional and intellectual space, really an unparalleled one. LALS at UC Santa Cruz is in a category of its own making, and I am proud to be a part of it. The second reason why I chose UC Santa Cruz was because of the intellectual community and freedom it offers me. There's a critical mass of scholars working in Latin American and Latino studies at UCSC. And many of these scholars aren't just housed in the Latin American and Latino Studies department. They work in various departments across campus. And many of us come together via the center that I direct, the Chicano Latino Research Center. And we host a number of public events like lectures, film screenings. All of you are invited to these public events. You can check out our website to see the listing. At UCSC, I've also had the freedom to think about what I want to think about, to write about what I want to write about, and to teach classes on a broad range of subjects, such as Latino popular culture, African American science fiction, and more recently, citizenship, immigration, and assimilation. And these are the subjects of my current project. Like climate change, like the impact of humans on wildlife, like the quest for a cure for cancer. These are some of the subjects that my fellow speakers will be talking about. The movement of people is one of the most pressing issues of our time. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees reports that by the end of 2012, 45 million people were forcibly displaced worldwide. Some people flee their homes because of persecution, conflict, human rights violations, hunger, or hope for a better life elsewhere. Some are internally displaced, meaning they have had to move within the borders of their own country, and some are stateless, and they're called clandestine or irregular migrants, sin papeles, sans papier. In this part of the world, they're known by myriad labels, such as undocumented immigrant, illegal alien, which is the term that the Department of Homeland Security uses. So at UCSC, I'm surrounded by scholars who are grappling with the twin themes of home and mobility. And we ask, why do people move? Where do they go? And what are the effects of migration on society and vice versa? And we strive to create knowledge and to inform public debate and to prepare our students for an increasingly diverse, complicated world in motion. And so my students are the third reason why I have opted to remain at UC Santa Cruz. This past fall, there were over 46,000 prospective undergraduates who applied to UC Santa Cruz. This is the highest number in the history of our campus. And Of those applicants, 33% were Latino. My colleagues and I work with students from all backgrounds, and we are keenly aware of the demographic shifts our campus, city, state, and country are undergoing. And I think in many ways, Event Santa Cruz shows us that we in Santa Cruz is really just one node in a larger network of circulating ideas, things, and people. Some people come here to study or work at UC Santa Cruz, and some come to work in the fields that surround us and to pursue a better life for themselves and their children. A few, like some of my students, manage to do both, to work in the fields and then come to UCSC. And those individuals, those young men and women, truly, I mean, they're taking a formidable leap, and they bridge the gap between campus and community, between the proverbial us's and them's. And I am honored and inspired to make my home here with them and with you. So thank you for having me.